Ah, sequels. You know where you are with the sequel. It's like the first game, only there are new weapons, new baddies, and there's a number at the end of it. Except sometimes a sequel isn't like that at all. Sometimes the next game takes a screeching handbrake turn into a whole other genre to produce a sequel so radically different from the original, you have to squint to see the family resemblance. Just look at these following video game sequels, for instance, which went in a completely different direction, flipping the script so hard it broke. Enjoy.
It's easy to assume that the trailblazing first-person shooter Wolfenstein 3D burst forth fully formed from the minds of its creators at id Software. After all, when it arrived on PCs in 1992, its combination of fast-paced shooting, gory deaths, and a schlocky World War II setting was unlike anything else that had been seen before. As a result, Wolfenstein 3D was wildly popular among PC gamers and went on to inspire one of the most popular genres in gaming even now. What many people don't realise is that Wolfenstein 3D isn't the first Wolfenstein game, but actually the third. The first Wolfenstein game was released way back in 1981 by Muse Software, developed by the brilliantly named Silas S. Warner. Castle Wolfenstein was a graphically simplistic top-down stealth shooter in which you had to scavenge for items to aid your escape. Guards could be frisked for ammo, keys and grenades, and chests might contain wine, schnapps, or delicious bratwurst. After that, I'd say the dog food in Wolfenstein 3D was something of a downgrade. At least it keeps BJ's coat nice and glossy. Just to further complicate matters, there was also going to be a Wolfenstein 3D 2, which according to maths would have actually been Wolfenstein 4. But then that game became Rise of the Triad, which was followed in 2013 by another game, also called Rise of the Triad. Also, you should know, Battlefield 1 isn't even the first Battlefield game. The first Battlefield game is Battlefield 1942. I know, so confusing.
Super Mario Bros. On the NES is one of the most iconic video games of all time, and we bet you think you know where this is going, straight onto Super Mario Bros. 2 with its weird turnip pulling. He's a plumber, not an arable farmer. But plot twist, we're not talking about that game because Super Mario Bros. Is the sequel we're talking about. Yes, Super Mario Bros. Is technically the sequel to the far less exciting arcade game Mario Bros., which is distinctly unsuper. Instead of having the big scrolling levels of the Mushroom Kingdom, Mario was confined to a single dingy screen. Now we understand why he's a plumber, because that is exactly how it looks under our sink, including the turtles. It's strange to think that Super Mario Bros., the game that would go on to set the template for platforming games and cement Mario as arguably the most popular video game character of all time, was the sequel to this weird arcade game. It's not even like they had the classic slightly slidey platforming controls locked down either, because at this point, Mario still moved like someone had sneakily buttered his shoes. Has Bowser tried that one? He should. Fortunately, in the sequel Super Mario Bros., Mario and Luigi found their true calling, saving the Mushroom Kingdom from Bowser, which was a far more heroic, if less profitable vocation. Because have you seen how much a plumber charges for an emergency call-out? It is daylight robbery. I'll fix it myself.
Did you, though?
No, that's why we're 4 inches underwater here.
Battle alert. Battle alert.
We're under attack. Scramble all fighters.
Break formation and fire at will.
The first 3 XCOM games were about running a global extraterrestrial defense force, turn-based combat, and being disproportionately terrified by the message hidden movement. Those aliens could be up to literally anything. When you weren't out in the field taking snapshots at sectoids, you spent your time back at base trying to balance the books as the costs of defending the planet spiraled out of control, eventually ending with XCOM's bankruptcy, after which the aliens took over the world and turned all humanity into gross mutant slaves. At least that's the ending I got every time I played XCOM. Also, can someone help me fill in my tax return? What even is a spreadsheet? However, for the fourth XCOM game, XCOM Interceptor, they retained the businessy accounting stuff and binned the main bit of the game, the turn-based combat. Instead, XCOM Interceptor was a space combat simulator that saw you taking the fight to the aliens and hopefully giving the people of Earth a bit of a rest.
Break off and return to base. Mission accomplished.
If you were successful, you ended up launching a missile into a star inside a black hole, which caused it to go supernova and prevented the aliens from destroying Earth, after which you returned to a hero's welcome on your carrier, the USG MacArthur. Or if you fly like I do, the MacArthur and your Interceptor ships both got destroyed, and your pilot ended up floating through space forever, along with $1 billion worth of spaceship wreckage.
Today, we gather to honor our pilots who have fallen in the line of duty.
Yeah. I might also need a hand renewing my car insurance.
With Pac-Man being one of the most instantly successful characters in video game history when he debuted in 1980, you think they'd have rustled up Pac-Man 2 in no time. Instead, we got Ms. Pac-Man, Pac-Man Plus, Super Pac-Man, Baby Pac-Man, Professor Pac-Man, Pac-and-Pal, and Junior Pac-Man all before the end of 1983. That's an entire Pac family tree in under 3 years. And yet it would take a further 11 years for the actual Pac-Man 2 to appear in 1994 on the Super Nintendo, and instead of being ghost-avoiding and pill-popping business as usual, it was a deeply strange point-and-click style adventure. I mean, at least he finally escaped that maze. Should be happy for him. If you're in any doubt how much Pac-Man 2 was a departure from the time-honoured Pac-Man formula, you don't actually control our yellow hero in it. Instead, you can encourage him to look in a particular direction and fire a slingshot at elements of the scene to interact with them. You also have to manage Pac-Man's mood. Upset him too much and he'll become enraged, but make him too happy by feeding him apples and he'll become smug, which, let's be honest, is probably worse. Who knew the sequel to arcade classic Pac-Man would be a therapy em-up? Anyway, by the time Pac-Man 3 rolls around, we're expecting it to be a virtual reality gerbil farming simulator, with a Battle Royale mode.
The key pillars of the cyberpunk genre are advanced technology, dystopian society, and trench coats. Have you tried hunting a replicant while not wearing a trench coat? It can't be done. According to these strict criteria, both the 1993 MS-DOS game Syndicate and the 2012 reboot Syndicate are as cyberpunk as it gets.
This is where we split up.
Both games are set in a future where powerful megacorporations run the world with a blend of corporate espionage, mind control, and shooting. After that, though, the similarity between the two games, shall we say, tails off. The original Syndicate was a Peter Molyneux joint in which you project manage a team of 4 identical trench-coated agents in real-time tactical action, in which they scurry around an isometric dystopia, pursuing the nefarious goals of you, their corporate boss. It had a legit sequel, Syndicate Wars, that was set nearly 100 years later, but did resemble its predecessor. The more recent Syndicate, on the other hand, was a first-person action shooter in which you stomp around in the trendy jackboots of one Agent Miles Kilo. Agent Kilo makes a living here in the year 2069 by murdering the staff at rival companies to the tunes of early 21st century classical composer Skrillex. Me, I personally prefer his earlier concertos from the Bangarang suite in B minor. But where is the drop? Ah, yeah, there it is. Both games were keen on mind control, but in the 2012 game, it was all about hacking your enemy's neural implants so they'd shoot themselves.
Breaching successful. Activating suicide.
In the original game, on the other hand, you had the Persuadertron, a whimsical little gadget you could use to persuade civilians into following your agents around, forming a brainwashed meat shield. It's hard to say which is the sketchier form of mind control, but no one's winning any prizes for ethical business practices here. I don't care how fair trade the coffee in your kitchen is.
The planet Arrakis, known as Dune. Land of sand. Home of the spice melange.
1992 PC game Dune was both an adventure based on Frank Herbert's sci-fi novel and the game your parents bought you when they misheard you say Doom. Christmas ruined. But Dune, although it was disappointingly short on shotguns and demons, was still an atmospheric adventure and strategy game, and its French developer Creo did an excellent job of recreating the characters and universe of the novel.
The Duke has sent Gurney Halleck to Carthag Tuek. Go outside, take an Orny, and fly there. Hurry up, my son. I sense danger.
And by excellent job, I mean there wasn't a single pair of metal underpants in sight. Sting, what are you wearing? Then for the sequel, Dune 2 Battle for Arrakis, development duties were handed to Westwood Studios, and they created a hugely influential real-time strategy game that would set the template for the massively successful Command & Conquer series.
Warning, enemy unit approaching from the west. Our base is under attack.
There was still no metal underwear in the sequel, for those keeping track. What? Someone will be. Dune 2 tasked you with building bases, harvesting spice, and deploying troops across the arid landscape of the planet Arrakis. The connection to Command & Conquer is so clear, units even share some of the same audio samples.
Affirmative.
So yes, somehow Dune 2 has more in common with Command & Conquer, a completely different franchise, than the game it's actually a sequel to. Makes about as much sense as metal underpants. Just think of the chafing.
Toejam and Earl is a roguelike co-op game in which you play as the title characters Toejam and Earl, two alien rappers who were extremely cool. By 1991 standards, if you were 7 years old. Toejam and Earl was stranded on Earth after a crash landing and had to traverse randomly generated levels trying to find the scattered pieces of their wrecked spaceship. This was made tougher by the addition of a collection of bizarre enemies, including an evil dentist. Now there's a man who loves his work. Ooh. As you explored the levels, you found gifts which could contain either beneficial power-ups, such as a slingshot to defend yourself or Icarus wings to get you across gaps, or detrimental power downs, such as spoiled food or being electrocuted to death. And the only way to tell was to open them or to pay a man in a carrot suit to tell you. Yeah, it was a weird game. It was fun though, which is why fans were so confused when the sequel ditched the unique gameplay of the original in favour of a side-scrolling platform game. In the story of Toejam and Earl 2, Panic on Funkatron, Earthlings have invaded Toejam and Earl's home planet, where they are annoying the locals with things like camera flashes and nude opera singing? Yeah, maybe save it for some time other than first contact with a sentient alien species, guy. So it's up to our alien bros to stop them using the previously unmentioned Trap-O-Matic jars, a new funk meter system, and a new mechanic where you had to shake every goddamn tree and bush you walked past. Also, presents now just give you points, so honestly, why even bother?
Alright.
And don't even get me started on the Hyperfunk Zone.
Alright. Alright.
I guess maybe they were just trying to fill a gap in the market because, man, in terms of platform games, the Sega Mega Drive only had Earthworm Jim, Castle of Illusion, World of Illusion, The Addams Family, James Pond, Quackshot, Joe and Mac, Lion King, Prince of Persia, and Robocop vs. Terminator, so you know, definitely a shortage. Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog. That was good.
Right, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and if you'd like a sequel to this video that is both comfortingly familiar but also slightly different, we've got videos from us up here and videos from our sister channel, Outside Extra, down here. And if you'd like this sort of thing all the time, click on the subscribe orb to get more of this in your inbox all the time.